Hello, my name is Sabrina Horak and I'm a visual artist. I was born and raised in Austria to a Japanese mother and an Austrian father. I studied art at the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna, then was active as an artist in Austria, and in 2013 I came to Japan with the Max Scholarship, enrolled in Geidai and did my PhD in oil painting here. After graduating I stayed here and I'm still active as an artist in Tokyo. I used to paint on canvases, and when I came to Tokyo University in 2005 as an exchange student, I had a lot of new ideas. I wanted to start painting the huge crowds of people that I saw in Tokyo, and I wanted to paint these, but I felt like a background didn't really fit this motif. So I started having the idea that I just simply could remove the background. So I started painting on wooden panels. So I would draw these huge crowds of people on wooden panels, then I cut away the background with a jigsaw, and then I painted with acrylic paint. I also wanted to give the work more movement. For some reason I never felt comfortable with this stiff square shape of the canvas. And something that I also noticed when I started working with wood is that it radiates some kind of warmth. It's very organic. At one point I made a work made out of aluminium, but it felt kind of different. So I really like this material, and also when I cut with the jigsaw or table saw, I really like the movement that I make with my body. Because when I paint, I sit at the table, for example, and make this, for example, for a figure this size, I'm sitting at the table, and with my hand I make the same movement over and over again. And this feels it gets boring after a week or a month. So I feel like when I cut wood, this movement is giving my body like some new experience. So this new idea of removing the background of a painting, it also set a lot of other new ideas and processes in motion in my mind. So I started not hanging the work like directly on the wall, but I started wanting to leave a space between the wall and the actual work, because then it would cast a shadow on the wall. So it gave the work kind of a relief-like atmosphere. And then after a while I also started painting the background of the work in different neon colors. Like here you can see it's pink, and it gets reflected by the wall. So I really like this effect it has. And it also makes me feel like it gives the work more presence in this world. So the title of the exhibition is referring to how I see my own life. I often perceive it as a kind of mountain where I have to get to a point that always feels kind of out of reach. So in the paintings that I made for this exhibition, I'm mainly depicting myself. There are two reasons for this. First, depicting myself along with the three-dimensionality makes me feel like I actually occupy space in this world, where I sometimes feel like I don't exist. I was talking before about how, with the distance from the wall, I feel like the work has a stronger presence here in this world. So I think that's part of it. So I manifest myself in this world through my work. In these works, my body becomes the literal mountain that I perceive my life as. And small figures that are also me are climbing up or resting on the various body parts. And the second reason is that I am at the same time examining my own identity. And I do this by depicting myself. So that these different parts I feel like my identity is fragmented into are defined by my religion, womanhood, my half Japanese, half Austrian heritage, and being an artist. These feel like very different fragments to me that often seem incompatible to me. And I think my work process of combining separate layers, elements, and materials, and then uniting them in one piece of work, whether that might be on paper or wood, is a reflection of how I'm trying to unite all of those fragments inside myself. So right now I don't have a separate studio, I work at my own home. And during the process of making the works for this exhibition, I had those huge figures at home. And I felt so calmed by seeing these big figures there. Like, to be honest, at times it also felt very stressful to wake up in the morning and seeing my work right there in front of me. But there was also something positive about them. Like, they felt like companions to me, like sisters that were watching over me and supporting me. Also seeing enlarged, multiplied depictions of myself in these vivid colors in my apartment felt like it invocated a multiplication of my own energy and strength. So I used my own energy to create these large figures, these big artworks. But I also felt like in return these artworks were giving me energy. Like I felt like they made me some kind of bigger or more. And so as I said, it's like I create visually striking artworks out of rough materials. And in the same way, I also make something beautiful, something visually striking out of negative and ugly emotions. And to me, this is like the transformative power of art. It feels like pure magic to me. So besides everything that I already explained, I want people to pay attention to the different materials that I used. In the works I made in the past, I used metal fixtures, preferably gold, for example, but all of the layers in the works were made of wood, the same material. But this is the first time I'm adding other materials like canvas, chains and tassels. So this was the first work I made that has a larger human figure as a base. You can see all those hidden triangle shapes within the whole work that symbolizes mountains. And the figures you can see here are taking a rest from climbing the mountain. They're gazing into the distance. And this gold chain that can be seen as a path that leads up the mountain to the top. So with this work, it's the first time that I combined canvas material and wood. So the base figure is made out of wood. It's very thick, relatively thick and hard, but the canvas is very soft. And I really like the contrast, the gap between those two materials. And it also creates some kind of movement. You can see in some areas the canvas is bending, like here, because you cannot really control it. And I really like this kind of movement and texture it creates. It also creates some shadows in some areas. And the figures that are climbing, they're climbing this figure that is a mountain. And in this area they're blue and turquoise, but the closer they get to the top, the more pink they get. Like first they're aliens and then they become humans step by step, the closer they get to the place where they want to go. And I used those golden staples also for the first time in this work, which has some positive connotations in our culture, I guess. But it also shows some kind of violence, because if you use a stapler, it's very noisy, it's violent. Nobody would put a staple in their own body. This act of violence, it's supposed to symbolize the hardships we encounter in this life. So in this work, all layers are made of wood, but the small figures are made out of wood that is thinner than the base figure. But here it's the first time that I added tassels. I always wanted to incorporate kind of fabric materials in my work, but this time I felt like tassels would be interesting. So when I made this work, I first had the big base figure, then I added the smaller figures, but I still felt like I need something else. So I came up with the idea of tassels. And the tassels are fixed with screws that are not completely in there. And the screws are golden, because I like the golden color. And I feel like the tassels are colorful and add some kind of like positive or fun atmosphere. So we are inside a closed room, so there's no wind. But for example, if there was a slight wind or breeze blowing, the tassels would actually move. And some interesting thing I had to do for this one was that I had to iron these parts on each tassel, because when I bought them, they were kind of bent like this, so I had to iron each of this. But I really like the process of doing some additional things, because always doing the same movement with my hand, as I explained before, is kind of boring. And it's also the first time that I used screws as a decorative element here. So similar as the other work I explained, it on one side it's supposed to be decorative and cute, like with the golden color, but also it's a kind of violent act to put these screws into my own body. So I'm very happy with how the works for this exhibition have turned out this time. Because since I use so many different new materials this time, there is always a risk that something might not turn out the way that you imagined it. But yeah, this time I'm actually quite happy with the result. And I'm thinking of, for my next works, I will definitely keep the scale with the large base figures. But I'm also like already thinking about what kind of materials I want to use, integrate. For example, combining flowing fabrics with golden screws, nails, things like this. And what's also very important for me is I want to keep this theme of identity, because that's very important for me right now. So I want to dive deeper into this, definitely. I was thinking about also adding some more destruction, being more bold with these elements. So yeah, I'm very excited about what's to come right now with my work. I'm looking forward to work on my new works.